Hello, everyone. This is criminal profiler Pat Brown. And thank you all who are in the chat room for coming here today because, as you all know, yesterday I was doing a call-in with Joe Stunner on boxing deaths and murders and possible suicides. And the audio went out before the show, and it was a mess. And my son came over, and he spent hours trying to fix it, and he finally figured it out. And it was quite a job. So, so everything's up and running again, thanks to him. And I didn't have to pay him anything. Oh, he's a good son. Anyway, welcome everybody who's in the chat room. Let's see who's here. And I say thank you for coming here after yesterday. And you wondered, is it going to happen today? And it is. Everything is good. And I'll ask you, can you see and hear me fine? Sky Ricky is here. Cantina is here. Molly is here from cold and freezing Ohio. Allison is here from Maryland, my place. Carrie is here. Leslie's here. Let's see. Did I already say Sarah? Maybe not. Sarah's here. Michaela's here. She's coming in from Australia. That's fabulous. Florence is here. Fairy Princess is here. Sky Ricky is, whoops, wait a minute. I'm losing. Stephanie's here. Molly's here. Lisa S is here. I'm losing too many people now. I can't see. Scarlett is here. I already said that. Sean is here. I might have missed your name. Grandma Tat is here. And Sky Ricky is here. And if I missed your name, sorry. But this is our great chat room. And it is for patrons only during the live portion. But make sure, just understand, all my videos, there's no private videos. Every video I put up is for everyone because I want everyone to learn something. Before I get going on this case of the murder of David Hartley, and the interesting part, Tiffany Hartley, his wife, played in bringing that to the public. And the question being, we know he was murdered and his body was never found, but her story has always made a few people raise their eyebrows. And the question is was she telling the truth? Is she telling the truth now? Or is it just she had this way of speaking that made people wonder? And sometimes that does happen. And it's important to understand that just because somebody comes off as maybe deceptive and not quite telling the truth, does that mean they're guilty of something? And that's the question. And I'm going to go through all of that today in this show because I think it's a really fascinating case. And it happened back in 2010, but the questions still linger. But before I go on with that, I just want to let you know that we appreciate the support for the channel. Patreon, if you'd like to be in the chat rooms and support the channel, it's $5 a month, at least 8 lives a month that you can be involved in. Or you can just subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that bell for notifications. You can also buy a book from below to support the channel, or you can hit the little $sign. And all of that helps the channel survive. Okay, let's go to the case. All right, now, yes, this case is, I'm going to go through a number of three different news reports on it, so you can get the idea of this case. And then I'm going to go into my analysis of the case, and also I'm going to add in Peter Hyatt's analysis of the case, because he does statement analysis, and also Dr. Lillian Glass. She does a lot of things on people's behavioral stuff, and what does that tell us? Body stuff, and she has some interesting things to say too. I'll get to that in a minute. Let me just tell you about the case, because some people have no clue about this one. This story came out more recently. It's called Greeley Woman. She's from Colorado. Greeley, Colorado. Woman starts a new life after drug cartel murdered her husband. Tiffany Hartley tells her story only to Denver 7. Well, that kind of makes me laugh. One of the reasons that people became very suspicious of her was the fact that she was, shall we say, when her husband had been murdered, she had no issue jumping on every channel there was to jump on to talk about what happened. And one could say she was just doing that to get the word out so that the Mexican authorities would act. But it did seem she was enjoying the attention. And her demeanor on the shows bugged people, and her stories did not exactly stay the same. So that was, I don't think, to her benefit to have done that. But anyway, now she's telling her story only to Denver 7. 9 years ago this week, a Greeley woman saw her husband gunned down in front of her at the border of Texas and Mexico. All right, let me show you something about that. All right. Where they were, if you look at the top there, you'll see a place called Zapata. All right. And you'll see a place below that the little blue circle there. That's where they were headed. And that's where they went. So you can see the border between the two of them. You see it going down there. And let me show you a little closer. This is, again, Zapata up there. They had driven to the lake there. It's called Falcom Lake. And they put their jet skis in the water there. And then they went not just on the lake, right next to the border. And you can see that the border does cut through the lake, and there's actually notification that you're crossing into Mexico. And they crossed into Mexico, not just on the lake, but as you see, they went down that tributary. I don't know what you want to call it. They call it, I think it's also called the river, all the way down there to these ruins where the blue circle is. So they went 7 to 8 miles into Mexico to look at this stuff. So that was at the border, but way over the border, in my opinion. Members of a Mexican drug cartel, those were the Zetas, were blamed for the murder, which gained national attention and has never been solved. Well, I'm going to say the Zetas killed them, but it's how it all happened, which is what puts up little red flags for me. All right, Tiffany Hartley now has a new family, and she's looking forward to her new life. She's telling her story only to Denver 7. Again, just to Denver 7, never to anybody else. It's been 9 years, but for Tiffany Hartley, the pain has never gone away. I miss his smile and I miss his laugh, Hartley said. Do I believe this? Yes, I do. I believe she loved her husband. Absolutely. I don't question that aspect of it. On September 30th, 2010, Hartley and her husband, David, had been jet skiing at Falcon Lake near the Texas-Mexico border. Well, it's actually on the Texas-Mexico border, and they went very much into Mexican territory. A week before moving from Texas back to Greeley. So they had been living, actually living in Reynosa, which is on the border, just south of McAllen, Texas. They had lived there for 2 years. They were familiar with Mexico. As a matter of fact, their actual vehicle had Mexican tags on it. They're working, I believe, for an oil company or something, and he's a manager of some sort. And so they were not unfamiliar with Mexico. These aren't two people who just went on a lark and had no clue what was going on. They knew Mexico. All right. So, but they were moving back to Colorado, and supposedly this was going to be, oh, we're moving back. Let's have one last fun thing on our jet skis. And what they said they wanted to go see was this beautiful church, which had sunken into the water over the years. Right now, I think it's actually, I think it's now actually above the water. I mean, I think it dried up, and so now it isn't as pretty. But let me show you another picture of it. It is absolutely lovely. Here's another. This is a good picture. See, it's like half sunk. So it's a great a photograph, shall we say, which, in my opinion, you can just steal off of the internet. But supposedly David Hartley wanted to take pictures of this because he's a history buff. Not saying that's not true, but that's why they wanted their last time on their jet skis, and he wanted to take this photo. He heard of this place. So that's why they went up there to that location and went to that spot and took pictures of that sunken church. All right. So anyway, the members of the notorious Zeta's drug cartel surrounded the couple in boats and opened fire. He was shot in the water and he was face down, Hartley said. She tried to pull David onto her jet ski, but couldn't lift him. The boats were just coming back towards me, and I heard God's audible voice saying, "You got to go." I just had to leave him, she said. And I'm going to get into a number of the different versions of what she said so you can see where things make sense and where things do not make sense. So she made it to the U.S. shore, but she never saw David again. And she came home to a media firestorm. And most of that was because her story was sketchy. and people didn't quite understand it. And she became an outspoken activist against the cartel. Despite the FBI's involvement, her husband's body has never been found, and the killers have disappeared. Over the years, one of the local police chiefs in Mexico, he was investigating this case and ended up with his head and a piece of luggage that the Zetas then presented as, don't bug us anymore. One guy was arrested from the Zetas. His name was Squirrel, and it was a big deal. Oh my God, the guy's been arrested in the case. And then a couple other guys are being arrested, and then it went dead silent, and nobody's been convicted of this crime. And so it stays unsolved all these years later, 13 years later, pretty much a done deal. Nobody knows what happened to his body. Nobody knows what happened to the jet ski. So this is not going to be solved. I guarantee. I don't care how many supposed Zeta people or somebody who knows somebody tells the police something. We're never going to know the truth of who did it and how, exactly what they did with his body and the jet ski. We're never going to know. But that's not what this show is about. This show is about Tiffany Hartley and her story. And what about statement analysis? How does that play into understanding whether people are telling the truth or not? So that's the basics. And I'm going to check your comments for a second here, just to make sure that I forgot to ask everybody. I asked everybody who could hear me properly. And then I forgot to come back to you. I see and hear you. Thank you, Shauna. Okay. So yes, everybody's good. All right. Yes, nothing like technical difficulties for fun. Oh, Kathy Klein from Florida. Welcome. A new Patreon. Yay. Happy to see you here. Okay. So let me just check further here. All right. So now, oh my goodness, there's so many people coming in. Let me see if I see any comments here. All right. All right. Oh, this is true too, Fairy Princess. No camera or pictures ever materialized. That is true. And I want to point out something. This is really interesting about this case as well. There are questions I would like to know the answer to. And I'm wondering whether anybody ever asked these questions. One of them is, where's the camera? Was it on David? If it was on David and he got killed and just, clearly, if he had the camera, the camera's gone. But somebody should ask that question. Who had the camera? There's a bunch of questions that weren't asked, and it boggles my mind that they weren't. And essentially, this guy, let me show you this guy's name. He's on the American side of things. And he was the one that she first, who took over the case on the American side from Zapata County. He's the former sheriff. His name is Zigifredo Gonzalez. They call him Ziggy. He believed her 100%. And he gives some very fanciful stories along the way that he's heard this from this person and he's heard this from that person. I don't know whether he's just gullible or whether he's fabricating, or I don't know about him, but I have questions about the guy's claims. Let me read you a little bit more from another point here. All right, so let's go to, this came out, it's called The Real Story Behind the U.S.-Mexican Border Murder of David Hartley. Now, what it was pointed out was and I think this is important, David Hartley worked for a U.S. oil and gas company with operations in Reynosa, which is the Mexican town over the border. And the couple had lived in the city for 2 years, only moving back across the border to McAllen in the past few months. The vehicle the Hartleys had used to tow their 2 jet skis to the U.S. side of Falcom Lake still had, oh man, can I not pronounce the state? Tamaulipas state license plates. Now, and this is true, and they actually got stopped. This was where they got stopped. Where's the thing where they got stopped? They did get stopped. And my picture of them getting stopped. Okay, I forgot that one. Okay, they got stopped by the authorities on the way there, and they're like checking them out because they're like, "What you doing here?" Now that sheriff guy, he claims, along with he has this wild story that once that happened, the Zetas knew they were coming, and they thought they were some or other cartel people. Something was suspicious about them, even though they looked like American as heck. So somehow they followed them all the way to Zapata and on that side of Texas. Then from a cliff, they were watching them as they entered that place going to the church, and they sent people after them. It's very fanciful. I think it's garbage. It's totally ridiculous. But at any rate, this also, by the way, okay. Where did he get his information from? He got his information from a place called Stratfor. Now, Stratfor, I actually, generally speaking, like Stratfor. They do a lot of intelligence stuff. They do a lot of research to understand different parts of what's going on in different parts of the globe. And I don't deny that they have good information on the cartels in general. However, this guy did get it from Stratfor, I think. It says that the Los Zeta scouts, known as Halcones, had identified the Hartley's truck as it made its way to Falcom Lake and watched the two set out on their jet skis toward the old Guerrero region. Both Gulf Cartel and Los Zetas operatives have been known to conduct surveillance and counter-surveillance operation on personal watercraft. So these scouts thus identified the Hartleys as possible Gulf surveillance assets, given their vehicle's license plate and their method and direction of travel on Falcom Lake. Their description and position was radioed to Los Zetas members on the Mexican side of the lake, after which the couple was apparently confronted by Zeta's enforcers. All right, could that have happened? Okay, but we're going to get to Tiffany's story, and the problem is her story doesn't quite match what these people are trying to say. So they say the attack on the Hartleys was not authorized by more senior members of Los Zetas. Why not? If you're gonna take out a couple of Americans, why wouldn't you authorize it? And they actually call this like Zetitas, or like little Zetas, like they're like little lower guys, like some 18-year-olds or something. Yeah, okay. And therefore, a damage control campaign is currently underway by Los Zetas. Number 2, Miguel Z40 Trevino Morales, to identify and eliminate those who engage the Hartleys without proper authorization. Okay, so this is reminding me of the Matamoros murders that just happened. In Matamoros, five South Carolinians traveled to the border, and one of them stayed there because she didn't seem to have any identification. And then 4 of them went over the border, supposedly to 3 guys and a woman who was supposedly getting a tummy tuck, which also kind of makes no sense. And they were kidnapped. 2 of them ended up dead. And the cartel actually gave a letter to the government saying, "Oh, sorry." And here's the 5 guys who are lower guys who we did not tell to do this. Now, if you start believing the cartels, yeah, they're cartels. They're good at lying and manipulating, especially when it comes to government issues. If they want to settle something down, even if it's not true, they're going to find a way. All right. So they're saying also that Stratfor sources, I like their sources. It's everything else. Sources. And who knows? Maybe they had sources, but that doesn't mean the sources have the truth. Stratfor sources have indicated that once Hartley was identified as an American, his body was destroyed the same day as the incident to prevent a backlash from the U.S. government against the group. Now, mind you, Tiffany Hartley got away. After he was shot, she gets away, and we're going to get into the whole getting away thing that doesn't hold water on the water. And you'll see why I say that. Doesn't hold water on the water. I'll explain that to you later. So if she got away and could tell the authorities what happened, why wouldn't they be looking at them anyway? How are they so worried about everything else? Not that they wouldn't destroy his body and do something with why not? I mean, they could just let him sink. I mean, they don't have to waste their time, actually. They could let him, he had a vest on to not sink. But who cares if his body is found? If it's clear he was murdered by them anyway, who cares if his body is found? Maybe they wanted to steal the jet ski because it's worth money. But other than that, who gives a crap, So there was pressure between Mexico and all that. So that's the other one. Now, let's get to the statement analysis. What does Tiffany say? All right. I want to start with, there were 3 of us. When this happened in 2010, a number of us spoke out, okay? And it was funny because we kind of spoke out around pretty much about the same time. I did, Dr. Lillian Glass did, okay? And Peter Hyatt did. And we're all 3 professionals. and we're all doing some body language, statement analysis type things. And all three of us said, she's deceptive. And we hadn't talked to each other beforehand. So these were independent ideas that were coming out. So I'm going to go to Lillian Glass first and what she said. All right. Where's Lillian? There she is, Dr. Lillian Glass. We did a blog together. It was called Women in Crime, Inc. And she points out things here. All right. So her basic story is, oh, wait a minute. Let me, should I show you this first or should I wait? Okay, let me give you just the more basic part of the story, just so you can make sure you understand it. They get on their jet skis. Okay, they go to Texas. They get on their jet skis, supposedly to go on this lovely ride, and they're going across this lake. Okay, to that spot I told you about, that tributary, the river or whatever, goes further into Mexico to the pretty little church thing. Now, they get to the pretty little church. Okay, now they're here. Supposedly they stop and take pictures. Tiffany says, and I'm going to, again, her story's changed. I'm going to give you the basic story just so I can, you're not going to be like, why is she even talking about, what is she talking about? So Tiffany says they get here, they take pictures, and there's a boat there and some guys are there and they wave at them. And so they wave back and they don't think much of it, like fishermen or something. So they take some more pictures and then they go to leave, and suddenly they're surrounded by these boats come after them, you see. And so they take off. They take off, trying to get it because they realize something's wrong here. And the guys start shooting at them. So now they're racing back down this 7-8 miles. They're racing back toward America. And at some point, David gets shot in the head. And she supposedly somehow sees him while they're both racing. And she says at a certain point up to 65 miles an hour, which is another issue. They're racing along, and he goes off the jet ski. Now, let me show you a couple pictures. Oh, I forgot to tell you this. Hold on one sec. You can, by the way, I usually do this in the beginning, and I forgot. This is the show you can see, Murder in Mexico. It is on YouTube, linked below. What happened at Falcom Lake. And it gives you a real good overview of the case. So that's worth seeing. You hear about the case. You see where Falcom Lake is. You see everything, the boats on it. You see Tiffany Hartley speaking out. Great show for all of this. Okay, so now let's look at this picture that they do show in the show. So this is Murder in Mexico from CNN. Here we have the 3 boats approaching them, you see, and they're trying to get away. Then we have David gets shot, and now he's lying in the water like that. Tiffany Hartley then claims she came up in her jet ski. She turned around, not up, she just came up. She actually, I guess she was in front of him, and she turns around and goes back to, she sees him go off there. She goes back to save him. Mind you, there are 3 boats, supposedly, shooting at both of them, and she's going to return closer to them while she tries to supposedly save her husband, who's clearly been shot. And even if she could get there, she's just going to be shot with him, and he's going to be shot 10 more times. So the understanding of why she would go back, and I'm going to go through her statement on that later. She supposedly goes back to try to save him. And there are 2 different stories. One is she pulls up and she tries to get his body out of the water and fails. And another one is she gets in the water and turns him over, sees the bullet hole in his head, and then tries to get him onto a boat, but he's too heavy, so she can't do it. So she gets back in her, I'm sorry, not the boat. She gets back on her jet ski, and she takes off. And there's more to the story because apparently they are all around her, and she claims that they pointed a gun at her right away, right when she was there, and she begged them not to shoot her, and they didn't. And then she takes off on her jet ski, and then they chase her, shooting at her, and she starts zigzagging because she doesn't want to she's trying to avoid the bullets that she says are flying about. And then at some point she manages to make it to the American shore, and they give up, and that's what happens. So anyway, that's the basic story. Okay. All right. So now, what does Lillian Glass say? All right, let's go to Lillian Glass's basic thoughts after this all happened. All right. So Lillian says, hold on a second. All right. So you know Dr. Lillian Glass. She says they're paying attention, the authorities are paying attention to Tiffany Hartley, who has gone on a media blitz sharing her story about alleged pirates who shot her husband while riding a jet ski on the Mexican side of Falcom Lake. Are they truly keeping their eyes and ears open, or are they turning a blind eye and deaf because the topic of border control is such a political hothead? And it is. So the same thing with the Matamoros, recent Matamoros killing. Are we getting all the truth, or are we just getting, we got to deal with the political aspects? As a body language and communications expert, I can never turn a blind eye when I see so many signals. Oh, I hate to be in front of Lillian when I'm talking. Hi, Lillian. Okay, I'm moving over here, Lillian. I can never turn a blind eye when I see so many signals of deception, which are consistent in Tiffany's many interviews. The lip licking, sudden and extraneous jaw excursions, pleading hand gestures with palms facing upwards, looking down, excessive eye blinking, tilting of the head, pulling her body away, and shoulder shrugs when asked about and discussing key issues are huge red flags. Likewise, I can never turn a deaf ear when I hear so many us and ums peppered throughout the speech, dying off at the end of sentences when crucial information is being revealed, a monotone voice devoid of emotion, too much detailed and tangential information, righteous indignation, and most crucial of all, too many inconsistencies in the story. It does not matter how many sheriffs or governors of states bordering the U.S. and Mexico border, or even her in-laws, believe her. It doesn't matter how many suspects or persons of interest are rounded up, or how many eyewitnesses come forward and rally behind her. Tiffany Hartley is exhibiting multiple signals of deception, which make her story very questionable in my view. All right. And she's talking, and it goes on, and she's talking about all the different things that very strange to her. Let me see if there's something else. She talks a lot about how the story changes. That link is below to Lillian Glass's whole story on that. I wanted you to understand that she saw a ton, and it was her body language, and she said that's her expertise is body language. Now we have Peter Hyatt. Now Peter Hyatt's a great statement analyst, and his link will also be below because he's got a lot of good stuff. Now. We analyze this pretty much the same time. I'm going to go to my analysis afterwards, but I want to point out some of the major things that he said. He says, Tiffany Hartley was deceptive about what happened to David. Tiffany Hartley withheld the general identity of the shooters. Tiffany Hartley was deceptive about why she and David went to Mexico across Falcom Lake. They did not risk life and limb over a Polaroid. We are in the same place. Okay. What is that same place? How stupid was David Hartley? Why did David Hartley, who Tiffany, I point at myself, that's not Tiffany. Tiffany admitted to her relatives, not to her relatives, on television, that David knew that area was dangerous, especially if you went into the Mexican side of it. They'd also lived in Matamoros for 2 years and had seen stuff that was really bad. A lot of Mexico is great. So, hey, if you're from Mexico, I love Mexico. Been there 5 times, stay there a lot. And I'm not just in the tourist areas. I've been to so many cities, big and small. I've taken buses through Mexico, I've driven through Mexico, and I've never once felt in danger. But then again, I didn't hang out in cartel areas. You know what I mean? Not a bright idea. And they lived there long enough to know it's not a bright idea. And so he's going suddenly, instead of, and I want to show you this map. All right, here's where they are in, okay, let's see. They're in McAllen, Texas. Where's my picture? Okay, I'm trying to find my McAllen in there. Okay, I guess was it here? It takes about 2 hours to get where they're going, okay? And the claim is they wanted to ride along with that picture thing, they wanted to ride their jet skis for at least one more time before they went to Colorado. Well, Colorado has lakes, so, that's not the last time you're ever going to ride a jet ski on a lake. That's ridiculous. But 2 hours here, but look down here. You see that lake there? That's a nice lake, too. It's called Lake Azucar. I think it's called Lake El Azucar. Okay, El Azucar. This is a nice big lake. It's not on the border, which is a good thing, because if you're here, you might be running drugs from here over to here, right? But if you're on a lake, it's just a lake. It's a fishing lake. It's a beautiful lake with nature. People go there from America to enjoy the lake. Why the hell didn't they go here, knowing there was border problems up here? Oh, you need a place to go have fun on your jet skis? How about here? Takes you less time to go to a thing called South Padre Island. A lot of people go here. It's a huge tourist area. You see, you can jet ski the crap out of this area, and you can do it out here. You can jet ski your heart out. And that's even closer and safer. Why didn't they go there? So the only reason they went here was one of two. Gosh darn, he wanted that photo of that sunken church. That was what he had to do. He had to get that photo of the sunken church. And he's going to take his wife along into cartel territory to get that photo, even, and he knows it's dangerous. The family wasn't happy to hear that she claimed that about her husband, that he knew it was dangerous, but took her anyway. Second possibility, they weren't there for a stupid picture. They were there for a drug deal. And nobody wants to go there because it's, they don't look like the type. I mean, it's true, they don't. But then again, a lot of times people don't look like the type. But why would they do something like this? He's an employed person. Why would he take his wife there? Why, or did she take him there? Did they want to live? They loved adventures. They're costly. Did they just think if they could make this extra money, then they could set themselves up for good? They could have a down payment for a house. They could take great trips. Did somehow they run into somebody who told them, hey, you can make a lot of money if you just go meet at that church, make the exchange, and you can just take your jet skis, go right into Texas. Nobody's going to be watching. You can't do that from Reynosa. You put stuff in your truck and, stopped at Reynosa on the border. I mean, the border guards are waiting for that crap. But here, jet skis. Americans on jet skis. Probably not. So could you bring drugs back? Sure. But we're going to look at these two possibilities. Was David Hartley just that much of a freaking hardhead that he had to get that one damn picture and take his wife into dangerous areas? Are they just that adventurous that they just said, yeah, nothing's going to happen. We're just on jet skis. We're Americans on jet skis. That could be. Some people are just not that bright at the moment. And it just seems like they've been around Mexico for a while, just like I have. I love Mexico. I don't see most places I went, I didn't worry. Maybe they just didn't worry. They're like, yeah, we're just on jet skis. Nobody's going to bother us. When was the last time some American was killed on that damn lake? That's possible. So let's keep that in mind, because we want to be fair. They may have just gone out to do that. But when I analyze what she says, then you have to say, their story is making sense, and why would that be? And I've got two different possibilities. One, that they were just there to get the picture, and I can explain her story sort of that way. The second, that they were there to do a drug deal and it went wrong. So I'm going to get into those two. So he says, okay, but Peter does not think they risked life and limb to get a photo of that damn church. All right, so let me sort of slide through here. He says he believed they went to Mexico to purchase drugs, likely cocaine, and giving money to a low-level cartel associate. Low level, and at one point Tiffany did say they were really young. This little guys, and it's very possible this wasn't an approved drug deal, but they had some contact, and that was the contact. Somehow they were the Zeta guys, or whoever they really were, reneged on the deal, stole the money, and there was a confrontation. Which, if you're quite frankly, pretty stupid if you go into cartel territory, isolated location, and think things are going to go well. Okay. Anyway, so. And let's see. All right. So what he talks about, Peter, is experiential memory. That a lot of what she tells about the story doesn't sound like facts. It sounds like she's making it up as she goes. And you have to ask, why would this be true? Why would she do this? If you just went there and, took your pictures, and then all of a sudden these guys were around you and they shot your husband and you took off. Why don't you just say, oh my God, we were taking pictures, and I guess we ran into a drug deal. Some people had drugs and they shot us because we saw them, and they shot David, and I just got away. Why is that not the simple story? That's the question. All right. So let's take a look at this. There's a lot here, so I'm going to link it below because I can't go to all of that. They've got tremendous amount of interesting stuff here. Yeah, I'm going to get all sucked into this because it's all very good. But, all right. It says, let's see here. He says he thought they were going to go over there and make this once of a lifetime killing and money. All right. When they crossed over, they either met on land or more to my thinking, met their contacts on a boat where they were betrayed by lower level associates. And David, big and strong, refused to back down. The drug cartels are known for viciousness and for making headlines with ostentatious acts of violence like beheading, and shot and killed David while watching Tiffany jump on her jet ski and turn tail. And it was interesting because he had put up, this is after the one I had put up, and I had said, did it really happen in the water the way she says, or was it on land? And I'll read you why I thought it was on land. Or I can look at this and what he's saying, close to land, like the boat right next to the land, not out in the water anyplace. That's where the deal would have been going down. He says, let's see, since she did not have a truthful account and her deceptive account had to come from somewhere, she chose a Hollywood movie, Titanic, which in my opinion fits her personality and mentality level. So it became this massive drama. Let's see. I want to go into what he actually said about this. One of the things she said during one of the shows he pointed out was, remember the word just? I always talk about the word just. There's some kind of lie coming or something's not deceptive after the just. Now, I can just say that. It doesn't mean it always is that. But she said it here. She said when she was asked, why did they do this? She said, who knows? Answering a question with a question. Then she moves on to the plural we, further signaling knowledge. But then she gives it away with the word just regarding the money. They just wanted money. How does she know that? You're on jet skis. Jet ski people don't usually carry money with them, do they? I mean, if it is, it's so pitiful. They might want the jet skis, but I doubt they really freaking want your wallet that much. That's unlikely. What money do they want is my question. All right. So let's see. Sheriff Ziggy Gonzalez, remember the guy I just showed you, did not polygraph her because he wished to use her story to help his ambition to shut down the border from criminals. She never took a polygraph, as a matter of fact. All right. So now I want to go to, wait a minute, where is it? Okay, hold on a second. Here. Okay. I'm trying to find the statement part. Okay. What the heck happened here? Hold on a second. Technical problems. Oh, Lord. Technical problems. Yay. Okay, hold on. Well, that's weird. Hold on one second. Okay, I've got to find the other one. 1 second. It's one of those that went missing. It had the same look, so I accidentally knocked one of them off. And this is a longer one, and I definitely wanted that. Okay, Hartley. Tiffany Hartley. Okay, so I'm going to pull this one back up because there's a couple little things I wanted to point out that he said, and then I'm going to go to my analysis. All right, let me find it. Yeah. I love it when it goes that way. Okay, where's the long one? Oh, here we go. I found the long one. All right. So she says things. I'm going to find the ones I think are really important. Here's her story. David and I were on the Mexico side taking pictures, and we were heading back. Just had some boats come after us. By the way, this is on the Greta Van Susteren show. Just come after us. They just came after us and started chasing us and started shooting at us for no reason. And they weren't even waving then. They just came after them. I had several bullets going over me and hitting behind me. I'm going to say, Tiffany, if you're going away from me, you don't know where the hell bullets are going. You might hear shots, but you got eagle eyes and you can see bullets whizzing by you. And you can see them hitting the water. I mean, you might be able to see something hit the water, I guess. But really? Okay. So what is she telling? She's trying to, and then let's see what he says. She establishes, first of all, what side of the river they are on when David was shot, which she was on that side of the river, the Mexico side. Now, the next thing he talks about minimizes the event or something fishy about that word. Just some boats. Just some boats. Just had some boats. She leaves out the word we, just had some boats. It's a weird statement. She distances herself from the event. And so let's see. I'm a couple more things here. She has trouble keeping track of the order of things, and you'll see that when he goes through the whole thing. They can't. The things go this way, and then she changes the order because it's not really working. This is an interesting one. I looked back, and David was hit. She looked back. And David was hit later on. When she says she was trying to get away from them, she says they asked her, she says, I didn't look back till they weren't chasing me anymore. How do you know? Unless you look back, you don't know. So she has that screwed up as well. The whole bunch. I really can't. It's so much. There is so much here. Just so much. I'm just going to have to link it because it's very long and it's really good. But there's a lot of information. So what he's doing is he's looking at specific words. Like she has sensitivity about things, and she'll say things like, I can't really give you a great idea of exactly. So she has problems just telling a straight story. She adds in all these words, which shows she's very uncomfortable with everything. And this is what Peter does so well. He analyzes all these specific words, which is not something I do, but it's something he does that is excellent. So yeah, you got to read it. You just got to read it. So he went through all the different words and found she was deceptive in the majority of her statements, and they changed from news channel to news channel to news channel. So you're going to check that out. But I'm going to show you some of the things that she said right up front that I can tell you are not quite right. So anyway, one of the things she says, all right, let me go to some of her statements. Okay, wait a minute, hold on a second. These are coming from some papers. She amazingly returned to where he was and tried to get him on her jet ski, Burns said. But before Tiffany could pull David's body from the water, the spray of gunfire resumed. She was forced to leave and race to the American shore for help, making it through gunfire safely. Now, here we're saying, I'm going to see if it says it here too. Crouched in the seat of her jet ski, Tiffany Hartley tried to pull the body of her husband, David, from the waters of Falcom Lake on the Texas-Mexico border after he was shot by pirates. All right. So one of the first stories is that she, when she was fleeing, she then went back to where she went back towards the guy shooting at her, which is quite phenomenal. And she tried to pull him out of the water onto this boat. Onto the jet ski, from the jet ski. Now, if you look at that, you know damn well, if he's floating in the water face down, which she says he was, and he's wearing one of these, by the way. He's going to be wearing a vest, which means he's floating like this, face down in the water. And I'm going to say there's blood in the water like that. But anyway, he's face down in the water. And he's over 200 pounds. I'm pretty sure of that. She's a little thing. She's actually, how in the world is she going to lean over the side of that jet ski and pull him onto the boat? That was one story. So that's why her stories are suspicious, because that's one story. Well, let's go and hear the other stories. All right. Let's see. Where were we? Yep. Okay. What did she say here? Oh, yes. Yeah. He was thrown off the jet ski and I couldn't pick him up to get him on mine. He is just too big. Of course. Okay. Now let's go further into her story, because this is where it gets more interesting. All right. So this is a transcript off of the program. And so it's a little so screwed up, so I'll have to try to explain it to you. All right. So anyway, boom, boom, boom. They're shooting at her. And then at 18:30, it says, you saw your husband get shot and thrown from the jet ski. Tiffany says she circled back as the three boats circled her. David was face down. So she's gone back right to put herself in danger when they're circling around her like sharks. And they theoretically just killed her husband, and she's just going to go in there and die with him. Okay, Romeo and Juliet. She said he was floating when she jumped into the water. And she turned him over. And and then she realized there was nothing to do because he was clearly dead. She jumped into the water and turned him over. All right, so now she's not leaning over and getting him. She's exiting the jet ski. She's in the water with him. She's jumping in. Meanwhile, the boats are around her. And she's turning her husband over in the water so she can see what happened to him. Supposedly he was shot through the back of the head. And when she turned him over, she saw a big bullet hole in the front of his head. That's how she said it was. In one story, after she turns him over, she's screaming, "Oh, wake up, wake up." And the guy's like, okay, the dude's not waking up. Another one, she says, was clear he was dead. So there's another story that doesn't make sense. But here's what really doesn't make sense. It's not easy to turn somebody over in the water. You don't have anything to stand on. This is deep in the lake. Or is it? According to her, they're out in the middle of this lake. So it's I don't know how many feet down, but it's many, many feet down. She's not standing on anything. She's like doing this, and she's going to push her husband over. He's got a floaty thing on too. How'd she do that? So I think that's a bull story. I don't think she ever did that. The story doesn't hold water. So I don't believe she could have pushed her husband over. That I can be complete BS on that. Now, next part. All right. So now she says he knows he's dead. Why did you turn around? And she said, it's my husband, who's my love. He's my life, everything. I saw him fly off. I didn't know what happened to him. And there was no way I wasn't going to go. All right. Then she says, let's see. Wait a minute. And but up there, she said they were going 65 miles an hour at some point. So, by the way, it's questionable how fast the boats can go, depending on which one you buy. They can go anywhere from like 45 to 65. Maybe they had the expensive ones. All right, now she wasn't expecting to be shot. She thought maybe it was just in his shoulder. That's why she went back. Then she said, he's a love of my life. He would do this for me. I was willing to take a bullet for him, just as he did for me. Repeat. I was willing to take a bullet for him, just as he had taken a bullet for me. He didn't take a bullet for her if he was on the lake. They were both fleeing. He got shot. That's all. He wasn't taking a bullet for her in any way. What is she talking about? Maybe she doesn't explain that he got behind her looking like he was protecting her. Then it would make sense. He got shot. She was ahead and she turned around to come back. But see, her story never is straightforward like that. I could see that could be true, but that's not the way she's saying it. Now, then she says this interesting thing. Let's see. Okay, so this is where she said he was shot in the back of the head and came through the front. All right. All right, now the gunmen are around her. Remember those three boats that are all around her now? And she said to one of the men, "Please don't shoot, please." A moment of apparent confusion, Hartley says she saw her chance to flee. The gun would be on me, and then he would take it off and then put it back on me. It seems like he didn't know what to do. And so he left to go meet the other boats, and she took off. Again, this is her taking off now. They don't know what to do with her. Mind you, this is the cartel. According to Stratford, they knew that they were planning to kill them. According to Stratford, they were going to do them in. They had orders to do them in. So now if they kill her husband and she's there, "Please don't shoot me." This is the cartel, man. This is Zeta of a Zeta. I mean, they're going to really let a witness go back? Why? I mean, they would have killed her on the spot for no reason, do I believe. And then she says after she left, they went after her shooting at her. So they had this moment of indecision. One guy's like, damn, I don't know. But supposedly all the guys were shooting at some point. So there's not just one guy making that mistake. There's all the other boats. Nobody knows how to shoot her. She's right in front of them. Oh, please don't do that. This makes no sense. Now, you wonder how long was she there? This is the other thing that just kind of makes me go, All right. How do you get on? You jump into the water. How hard is it to get back on? All right, let me show you. And this is why once she was in the water, she certainly couldn't get her husband out of the water. This is a woman trying to get on the boat. I mean, on the jet ski. Here she is. She finally made it there. Let's see. Yeah, this is a guy trying to get on. You've got to reach over. You got to grab. Then you got to haul your ass up. I could never even do this. I don't have the strength in my arms. And then here's this girl grabbing away, trying to crawl on. Oh, now she's getting up there. Oh, you see how hard that is? Not easy. So there's no way. When she says I was going to try to get my husband's body on the boat, are you kidding me? You can't even get on the boat, much less get your husband's body on the boat. That's stupid. So the concept that she turned around, went back to where the shooters were. When, once they had shot him and he fell in the water, she actually, this whole concept, I'm going to go back and save him. Okay, if they shot him and he fell in the water, what's the next thing they're going to do? They're going to shoot his ass again. They're going to make sure he's dead. She would know damn well she went back. She's going to be dead too, and he's going to be dead. There's no saving going on there. So her story about going back, and then one story about leaning over and trying to get his 200-some-pound body onto the jet ski, which is ridiculous. The other one where she jumps in the water, turns him over, which can't be done. And then she can't get him onto the boat, which of course can't be done. And then she crawls back onto the boat in slow motion. And they says, don't shoot me. And then they decide not to for a second. And so she escapes and they shoot after her and she makes her way home. Zigzagging, by the way. That's how she prevented getting shot, zigzagging. All right, so now look at this one. Let's say she was going 65 miles an hour. And the boats they are in, and let me show you a picture of the boats that the sheriff claims they were using. Boats like this. He says a picture of some of the drug smugglers. And here's another boat. He says, see the marijuana in the left in the bag? Okay. So this is like an outboard. They don't go that as fast, maybe 45 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour. So the jet ski is quicker. But here's the boat. You got 3 boats. And you do this. It's not like running where you do this. You do the turn. When you do the turn, you have to turn quite widely and you slow down. Every time you do this, the boat catches up to you. So do you really want to turn into the path of the boats, slow down so that they can then come in on you, and then you have to turn and zigzag back? You're slowing. You cannot do that at 65 miles an hour. It's not happening. So that's just a ridiculous story as well. And I'm going to tell you in the end here why I think all of this stuff, what really, really happened. All right. So that's her story. And I don't buy it. Peter Hyatt didn't buy it. Lillian Glass didn't buy it. Now let me say before I give my explanation, let me say some of my smart people here. Oh, wait a minute. Is there anything left here I forgot to point out here? Okay, we already did that one. Was there one more here? Okay, that's where she got back. So the other at some point the boats gave up. No, that makes no sense. Anyway, all right. I want to say that Benny couldn't be here today, so he sent this over. Tiffany's story keeps changing, which means she is lying, which is absolutely true. That leaves us with 2 possibilities. Either she killed David, which I do not believe. A lot of people did think she killed him for like insurance money, and she brought a gun and shot him, but his body's never been discovered. Shoot, no, I forgot what. Jet ski. I forgot what jet skis are. Jet ski hasn't been discovered. So no, I don't think she's fancy enough for that. And then she would have to hire somebody to kill him. That one I don't go with. But a lot of people did question that. 2, David was killed, but not in the way or the reason she gave. There is something more logical. Not in the way or the reason. All right, now let me look. I want to point out what Sandra sent because I thought this was great. It shows you that people who come to my shows are learning something from them, I believe, learning how to analyze. Wow, I watched it without my Pat Brown goggles on. I think those are goggles, and indulged my cold viewer kind of mind. Great. No emotion. She had no emotion. She's awfully small. I do not know how in the hell she jumped in the water thinking she could retrieve her husband, climb back on the ski, avoid execution, managed to outrun 3 boats on a jet ski for 8 miles by zigzagging. I find that unbelievable. She is small. Those jet skis are huge. She would have capsized at the speed she claimed, 60 miles an hour, in 8 miles, for heaven's sake. That's just off the top of my head. The flat affect throughout is problematic, but we are looking at the facts. Her story sucks. Bingo, Sandra. Absolutely. See, people can profile that aren't professional profilers. But this is what I'm talking about, learning how to analyze situations. So, okay, I'm going to go on to my explanation as to what I think happened. But I will check your comments just for a second here. Let's see. She will get a movie from this with Vin Diesel playing her. Vin Diesel? What is his name? She hasn't gotten one yet, so I don't know. She's been pretty quiet recently. Oh, I'm going to point this out, Sky Ricky. Very good point. She would sound pretty awful if she said, I just took off. So she makes up the story. All right. One possibility, and remember, there's 2 possibilities I personally think happened here. So I'm going to go with you, Sky Ricky, on your point here. All right. One possibility is that she and her husband made a stupid idea to go down and take those stupid pictures. And when they were threatened and they realized they were in trouble and they made a run for it, she was in front and David was behind. They shot David, and realizing they'd shot David, she stepped on the gas and got the hell out of Dodge. But when she got to shore, she felt like it made her look really bad to have just abandoned her husband like that. For some reason, she decided she had to make up a story that made her a heroine of some sort. That she went and risked her life when all she did was be in front. He got shot. She's out of there. That is one possibility. So keep that one in mind. Sky Ricky is correct. This is a reasonable concept that this could be true. And because of that, from the moment he shot, everything after becomes a fake story, because all she did was get out of there. So the fake story goes, she can't keep the fake story straight because none of it's true. She never went back. She never tried to get his body in and out of onto the jet ski. She never had people point a gun at her right there and say, oh, please don't hit me. And she never zigzagged. She never did any of that. She was just ahead of him. He gets shot. She keeps going. And he did then take the bullet for her. But when he got shot, she was, at that point, maybe she just was too far away because maybe he was zigzagging. Maybe he was a zigzagger, because if he was zigzagging, he would be slowing them down, cutting off the path to her. And she's making faster progress because she's going straight, but he's zigzagging. So by the time they shoot him and he falls off the thing, she's way out of there and they can't catch up. That is very, very plausible. And so she lied. It's stupid to me. I mean, this is entirely stupid that she would lie for that reason. Because she could have made her husband the hero. She could have said, oh my God, my husband, we got out of there. My husband, he said, get in front of me. He said, get in front of me. And I got in front of him and he started zigzagging to hold up the 3 boats. And he got shot to save my life. That's all she had to say. The family would have been, his family would have been forever thinking their son was a hero. Everybody thought he was a hero. It would have been great. But her story about going back was so bad. She either is a narcissist attention seeker, and therefore, instead of telling just the basic real story, she made up all this crap. And that is one great possibility. All right. That's one possibility. And let me do the other one. And then we'll have our discussion here on which one of them you think is more likely. Okay. When I wrote things originally about this case, some thoughts I had about it. Let me find my thing. Hold on. It's here somewhere. Damn it, where is it? Okay, it should be. Tell me that one. Okay. My question, because your story was so odd, is did this actually happen all on the water or is the story on land? I'm going to read some of what I said. All right. I believe she is telling the truth. And I do still believe basically she's telling the truth about some of it. Sort of. She is describing the murder of her husband by drug dealers, which I think is true. She says she did not have any reason to want to kill her husband. I believe her. I just don't believe she's telling the truth about where the event went down or how it went down. Okay? So here's the possibilities. Sometimes I said here, some of her stories rings true and parts of it make no sense. This could be why certain facts change. She may want us to believe the story, so she tries to make it as convincing as possible, fixing things a bit as time goes on without giving up the whole truth. So if she's making up the story, not because she's a narcissist and just wants to be a hero herself, but she might be wanting to keep herself out of a jail cell or be linked to being involved in a drug deal. And this is the question, which one is it? Sometimes when people lie about a tragic crime, which they are guilty of committing or having some sort of involvement in, they change the time it happened or the location of where it happened to eliminate themselves. So the basics are there, but they switch things around in order to make it kosher, essentially. I think Tiffany may be doing this. I think the murder occurred and Tiffany escaped. But I think it may have all gone down on shore and not on the lake. I think no. Okay, now the question is, did any boats come after her at all? If you replace water with land, everything happening on the water, if you replace that with something that happened on land, now it makes more sense, actually, unless she just deserted her husband. Okay. The story where they just came after them. He was the one doing the zigzagging. He did take the bullet and she just kept going, which is perfectly fine, except that she lied about it. If it wasn't that, then she changed the story. And I think if she changed the story, it either was on land or right next to the land. Okay, let me explain this. All right. Okay, she keeps going on about why his body would be found on land, which is odd because she was shot in the water. Why does she think his body is on land? Now, true, they could have dragged his body, put his body in a boat and carried it back and then got rid of it. But they could have also just taken the jacket off of him and let him sink to the bottom of the damn lake. They could have done all kinds of things, but she keeps saying his body's on land. Is that because she saw him get shot on land? That's my question. Let's see. Let me go further here. Tiffany doesn't seem to be mad at her husband's murderers. She stated on Issues with Jane Velez Mitchell that we just want David back. And maybe they can't provide a body, I don't know, but they can provide something of evidence and then we'll go away. She doesn't want them arrested. She just wants the body back and then she'll just shut up. What the heck? All right. I'm not sure what that quite means. So let me get down to what I think. Okay. Originally they said that this might have been a mistaken hit, that they were mistaken for cartel people and didn't realize they were Americans. Those do look like Americans. Oh my God, do they look like Americans? She's a little blonde girl and he's a big fat white dude. I don't mean fat. He's a strong, big white guy. Unless they're working, doing a drug deal in general, they're not cartel members. And it's unlikely that they would be spies for cartels. I mean, that's kind of shaky there. All right. So I don't think it's a mistaken thing. And I'm not sure I buy Stratford's whole thing about them being watched all the way there. And then if they did all that work to stop them and execute them, they wouldn't have left her alive. That's not the way the cartel works. They're not that nice and they don't care that much. All right, let's go on. So where did the murder occur? Now, one of the things that bothers me is she claims that people were waving at her. And then after they waved, then they took some more pictures and left. What? I mean, if the cartel people thought they were doing something. And they came up and took pictures of the church and then turned around and left. I don't know what they would think they're doing anything. They could, why would they think that? Why are they waving at them? The question is, are they waving at them because that was where they were supposed to meet the drug guy to make the drug deal? I mean, one of the things about this church, let's look at this church again. First of all, again, if you cross over the border at Reynosa, your truck might be stopped. You might be easily caught as being a drug smuggler. But if you take jet skis from Texas to there, apparently there's not much paying attention. And this place actually goes up to the land there. There is land behind it. There's places to get off your jet skis. There's also, you just have a boat there. This is a great landmark. So somebody could easily say, hey, we got the deal going. All you got to do is get on Falcom Lake, go down that thing to that submerged church. No question where you're going to go. You know exactly where you can pull up with jet skis, make the deal, put the stuff in your jet skis, and ski out of there. So, all right. So these guys were waving. Maybe it's because it's us. Come on over. We're going to do our deal. All right. Now, Tiffany also recounts having conversations with the killers. Remember, she's had a couple, don't tell me, all that stuff. And she had to do that over the sounds of jet skis. Well, and then the boats and the gunshots. You usually don't have conversations with people at that point. Okay. It sounds more to me like the parties are toe to toe, that they're not on the ocean, open water with all kinds of sound around them. They're like, it's quiet. They've pulled in to make some deal, and now they can talk. Either David gets off and gets in a boat where the deal is going on. He's going to pick up the stuff and put it in the jet skis, or they pulled onto land and David gets off on the land. Where Tiffany is a good question, because I think it's very possible. One possibility is that she is on land with him, or she's still he just said, stay on this jet ski. Just stay there. I'll go make the deal. I'll put it in my jet ski, and then we'll take off. We don't know because we weren't there, and I can't prove it. Okay, so anyway, he gets off either on land or there, and then something goes wrong, like they take the money, don't give the drugs, which is the reason why you don't do these stupid deals, and then he gets shot. All right, and then he falls down at that point. There's two possibilities. And might be only one guy with a gun. We don't know there's three guys we know there's three boats supposedly, but it could be just three guys in a boat. Maybe one guy with a gun. Maybe it's a really low-level little losers doing this, not the true Zetas or the higher-ups, just a couple of losers again. We can make better money if we do this deal with the American. Something went wrong, and one guy pulls a gun out. He shoots, something goes wrong, he shoots David. David keels over. Now, here's a possibility. Supposedly, she doesn't know that he was shot in the head until she turns the body over, which again, we know is impossible in water. But did he get shot and she turned his body over on the land? That's possible. She could have been he could have been shot. He could have staggered over, fell over. She looked down. Oh my God. Maybe he was still alive. Who knows? He said, run. Who knows? Don't know. Or he just got shot and she just took off because she's, oh crap. And she jumps on her. She's still on it. Maybe she's already on the jet ski and she just takes off. Therefore, his jet ski and his body are at land, and they just haul that out right there and disappear. All right. So anyway, the other thing is when she checks to see whether they're following her, they were following her. I mean, supposedly all this time on the water. But it makes much more sense if one guy shot her husband on land or in the boat next to the land, that she takes off and then she looks back to see if they're following her. And if they are, they aren't. She's got the jump on them again because they have to start up their boat and they have to go out. Maybe it's just one lousy boat. So now she's taken off. She's as far as she can go. She doesn't have to zigzag. She just goes straight because nobody's actually shooting at her. She's just taken off back to the shore. That's it. And again, the other possibility is that when she said he took a bullet for me, if he was zigzagging to protect her on the water, that would make sense. The other time it would make sense if they pulled out a gun and he stood in front, blocked. She was behind him in the jet ski, and he stood in front of her in order that they couldn't shoot her, and they shot him. And she said he took a bullet for me, and he may have. One way or the other. All right. So there we have the two possibilities. They went, they for whatever reasons, these guys decided to shoot at him. And they took off. And David did the zigzaggy. He took a bullet for her, trying to slow them down so they wouldn't hit her. And she just kept going and lied about it to be the heroine of the story because she's a narcissist. Or they did go do a drug deal. She was either on the shore near her jet ski, or she was already on the jet ski. The deal went sour, either right there on the shore or right in a boat next to the shore. He went in to get the drugs and didn't go well. He gets shot. She takes off. Nobody ever chased her. The three boats are really three men in a boat. Maybe just one guy shooting, and that's why she didn't get shot. Because to me, if there were all these guys trying to kill her out there, I still think, unless David's zigzaggy thing really worked well, and she got that much further ahead, I think they would have killed her. I mean, without question. So I know the story that she went back is stupid. I don't believe that exists. So these are the two theories I have. Okay? And so I'm curious to what you think about the two theories. I think one of the things that bothers me the most is the waving hello from, she claims they did, that they appeared to be friendly in the beginning. And then they took their pictures and they were leaving and they were taking more pictures. It doesn't seem like they would mistake them for anything but American tourists at that point. I don't know why they would want to kill American tourists and end up with some kind of, it served no purpose for them. Because they clearly were not doing anything particular, and except for taking, they would have looked touristy. And the Zeta doesn't usually want to commit a crime against Americans because it brings in this kind of American, the American Mexican government oversight and turns into a nightmare. And of course, many people got killed over this incident theoretically, but that's not something I think they want to do. Now the claim can be, yeah, the lower guys did it. They were just idiots, and we're pissed off about that too. The same way in Matamoros, they're saying, oh yeah, these 5 guys did it without our permission. So we'll turn them in and say, sorry. Really? But the story is so sketchy that it's either one or the other, but I still have problems with why they went there in the first place, why she saw them waving, and how he got shot and how she got away, and her whole story. What does it really mean? So those are my two theories. I can't prove either one of them, but I'm just going to leave those two theories for you. All right. So let me go see what you have to say. All right. So let me go down here to your comments now. Let's see. Yeah, well, this is the part, Katie. So what would be the reason for doing all these things, though? I don't believe her either, but I just don't get that part. Well, the two things would be that she is a narcissist and wants the attention that she would get by claiming she went back to save him. And in that way, yeah, I mean, she takes away a lot of his herohood, if you call it that, or heroism, because the real word's heroism, not herohood, heroism, and puts herself as essentially the hero or heroine of this story. And also says that he knew it was a dangerous place. So in a way, she's trashing him. And then she says, oh, but he was willing to take a bullet for me, so I took one for him. I would take one for him. So it's either she's a massive narcissist, which is not unreasonable considering that she was on this huge television thing and she was telling all these stories. It's not unreasonable to think that's true. The second one being that she's covering up that she was involved in a drug deal and she didn't want that to come out. Yeah, my husband and I went to buy drugs and bring them over the border. Isn't that what you want to say? But interestingly enough, she could have just told, I say, a very simple story. We were taking pictures of drug. We saw something happening, and we saw some boats, and it looked like there were drugs in them. And the guys started shooting us, and we took off, and he got killed. That's all she had to say. But she didn't. So she's either making up a story for her own amusement and narcissism and notoriety, or she's covering up what really happened. So those would be the two reasons. That's true. Kelly says there's no shame trying to get away from the cartel. Therefore, it's odd that she lied. Absolutely. And there, Stephanie is right. Even if she is just telling a story that makes her look better, it still begs the question of why the cartel shot her husband. She doesn't actually say, this is a very interesting point. She doesn't actually say, we saw them with drugs. She just says, Is this a place where people fish? I mean, if I were there on my jet ski and saw a couple of three Mexican guys on a little boat, I'd assume they were fishing. Why would I think anything? And why would the cartel think they were thinking anything? The picture, did they think they were taking pictures of them? She doesn't say we took pictures of the boat. They're out there taking pictures of that supposed submerged then, the church then. And they, yeah, I don't see the reasoning either. So that makes me wonder. Well, we don't know if the camera went down with him. And I'm going to say that she had the camera. I don't know. I don't know where the camera went. I don't see any information on that. I'm assuming it's with him if he's the photographer and if he even took pictures. We don't even know if the camera was with them. We just assume that she's telling the truth, you see. There's a good point. Michaela says cartels kill you and your entire family. They sure do. They don't have a lot of sympathy. And just because she's a little blonde girl, don't go. Seriously. If one guy didn't shoot her, the other guy would shoot her. If that were true, that there were three boats. And then at some point she said there were two boats. Then she said there were three boats. Oh, and then she said there were four guys on the boat, but I couldn't see two of them. What? That's another story she told. It makes no sense. How did you know the other two guys were there if you didn't see the two guys? You see how that works? Something's off with that whole thing. I would think his body would have turned up sooner or later. Not really suspicious because the cartel, especially if he's killed on land or right next to the land, they would dispose of his body. They don't need it to be found. They can just get rid of it. And then it's just her story. But that they would drag it out of the lake. Let's say he did get shot in the lake. He's floating about. They had enough guys. Maybe they could get him into their boats and get him away. But then they have to hook up. Somebody's got to get on the jet ski and take that back, which is all possible. Oh, that's very good point. Sarah says tense is a problem for her. And I wanted to do this with Peter's stuff, but there's such a long article. I couldn't find all the stuff in it. He points out the tense thing throughout his article, that she goes from past tense to kind of a storytelling tense where it's present. So it's like saying they shot at us and then they're shooting at us. One is storytelling. They're shooting at us is storytelling. They shot at us is telling a fact. Yes, the tense thing is interesting. So I really I'll put that article there. It was the way it was written was a little hard because there was so much information to go through. But do that. Check out his article. It's very, very good. Don't eat a hamburger in Mexico. Why not? What's wrong with the hamburgers in Mexico? That one I don't get. Love Mexico. Love their food. Love their street food. Although I don't usually eat hamburgers. I use tacos, So I don't know. Sky Ricky says, oh, what a tangled web we weave when we first practice to deceive. That is correct. And that is the simple story, if it were true, would be she would repeat the same story over and over again. But I don't know how many times her story changed, but it was a whole heck of a lot. So she couldn't remember all the details because the details weren't emblazoned in her mind because they never existed to begin with. Yeah. She would have been thinking of the implications of what all happened in advance of telling. The question is, what would the implications be? The only implication she would have would be if she were involved in drug dealing and she were going to bring drugs across the border to try to make some quick money. That would be something to be concerned about. Other than that, there's really nothing to be concerned about. That her husband saved her life after he got shot by the cartel is not an unreasonable story. So she didn't need to not tell the truth about that. Well, Antini says he may be trying to score before they left town. He could have resold and made a lot of money. And that Peter Hyatt thinks that, and I lean toward that. Because, they look like them. They look like such an all-American couple. It's hard to think that way with them. But it won't be the first time, you think, hey, if I could get this money, if I could do this, holy crap, I would be able to say, put a huge payment down on my house. I could buy a house outright. We could fund everything. Maybe they're in debt we didn't know of. Maybe they just wanted to be rich and were frustrated that they weren't getting wealthy enough. Some people, that's a big issue for them. They get tired of being paid a regular wage and struggling and having to, pinch pennies and stuff. They see the opportunity, and it's like that glittering thing, that you just can't resist, in spite of the fact it's stupid to go get it. And it's such a risky adventure, but I don't know. I'd like to know more. I'd be doing a lot more interrogating. And she never really got interrogated. She gave a statement. So, no. Yeah, he went to do the deal while she waited in the water. That's not unreasonable to think that could be true. She's not mad at him because she planned it with them. Well, some people think she planned that he get killed so she could pick up the insurance money. I don't. I have problems with that. I just don't really think so. But she may not be mad. Well, she still should be mad at them. They killed her husband. But she's not expressing. She expressed grief over the loss of her husband, sort of, but not so much anger toward them. Now, apparently, somebody did see her coming into the Texas side and said she was a wreck, which she would be, no matter what the reasoning was. She should be a wreck. She should. And that's normal. So that was real. And because she was a wreck, I don't think anything was planned. That's a good point. I just thought of it. She came in blubbering, sobbing, and freaking. She was freaked out, like wild, crazy. Because if she had planned him to be killed in Mexico, she would have come in like this. Oh, that was nice. And then she went, oh, by the way. But she didn't. She came in pretty freaked and seemed to be realistic that she was. So I don't think she didn't want him to be killed. I definitely don't think that's true. I think they made a plan to either do this last trip and take pictures she just made up a story afterwards to make herself look amazing, or they were there on their drug deal together. Now, who pushed the drug deal if they went there for that? I don't know. Maybe she pushed him. A lot of people think the guy made her go. Like if he were doing the drug deal, why would he even take his wife? Why not just go by himself? But maybe she was pushing him and said she's going to go with him. I don't know. We also don't know if they were carrying weapons. I don't know that he couldn't have had a gun to protect himself. Just never found the gun, along with never finding the camera and never finding the jet ski. We'll never know. We will never know. Well, there's an interesting theory Sarah comes up. Maybe he left her to be on waterland to live on an island. I guess that could be true. He just took off, and she's like, well, dang it, you just deserted me. Maybe he joined the Zetas, but I think that's unlikely. I think he's really dead. They did find his blood, a tiny bit, on her vest. So then the question would be, if they found some on her vest, if she were in the water with him, I don't know how much blood would have gotten on her. Obviously, if he's face down in the water and he's bleeding out, there's a lot of blood in the water. She couldn't have turned him over. So maybe she touched the back of his head and there was blood on her hand and she went like this. And then she swam to her thing, got out. I don't know how much blood there was and it was diluted. I don't know. Or if it wasn't diluted, was she on land behind him when he got shot and some blood spatter got on her? If he got shot on land, did she run to him and get some blood on her hand and then jump on her jet ski? Or was she near him on the jet ski and the blood flew and drop got on her? Don't know, because I don't have the evidence of the blood spatter on her or the blood that was on her vest, but it was his. So he's clearly dead. So I think we can go with that. Let's say a lot of talking about how she should be bitter and mad, but she's not. Antini says, we just had a cartel killing here and they killed the grandparents and the babies. Exactly. Yep. Oh, and the dogs too. Yep. Stephanie says, if you're going to you're going with a drug deal gone bad, then my question is, why the heck would you bring your wife along? You're purposely putting her in danger. I mean, I agree. That seems odd. But then again, maybe it was her idea and she insisted to go, and I don't know. I mean, that is probably one reason why I could lean toward They were shooting at them for reasons we don't even know. I say the purpose of them shooting at them bothers me because they know tourists go around and they see them on jet skis, although it is said that jet skis are used for transporting drugs. But if they're sitting back there and watch these American couple taking pictures and then turning around, I don't see the great purpose in them going after them. I just don't. It makes no sense to me. Because they've seen tourists before. It's not like you don't know what a tourist looks like and how they act. And they're having fun and they're on their jet skis and they're taking pictures and oh my God, so cool. Don't look like drug dealers. They don't look like drug dealers or some other cartel like spy or something. So, I have trouble with the whole concept. They went after them and then at all. So the other part, would they go as a couple to do a drug deal? That seems odd too, unless she was being used as a cover, that if anybody saw them, it wouldn't look suspicious. He's just see a guy on his jet ski alone. Would that look like he's going to do some business and he's coming back from that business? But if he takes his wife along, it's two of them just having a fun time. They're tourists. Is she the cover for the drug deal? Possibly. Was he a fluent Spanish speaker? Oh, I don't know. I never looked that up. That's a good question because they were I don't know if they were in Reynosa, did they speak Spanish? I mean, just because you were there for 2 years doesn't mean you speak Spanish. But he was working with some bunch of people. You'd think he'd know enough Spanish. I don't know about her. I couldn't find much details on their actual full life in Reynosa and whether they were fluent in Spanish or they were not. But I would, if I were about to be shot, I prefer to say in Spanish, "Don't shoot me." I don't hear that she did that. So, yeah, I think that's the point I just made, to make it just look like you're just out jet skiing. And that could be, let's see, were they lulled to a false sense of security because they had lived in Mexico, had done this before? They had supposedly been to that lake before, like a half a year before. I don't know why they're so interested in that damn lake, tell you the truth, when there's closer lakes. That makes me wonder, did anything happen before? I don't know where they were before. Was there a previous drug deal? I don't know. Was this their last chance at a drug deal? I don't know. But would they be more comfortable in Mexico? Yeah. I mean, if you've lived, well, they had two things. Tiffany told some terrible stories that they had seen people being executed on the streets and all this military action. And she talked about two really dreadful incidents. So they were not unaware of the cartel in the area of Reynosa. But the question I have, and this is always the question, is if you're not involved in the drug trade and you don't get caught in crossfire, most of your time may be pretty, even in Reynosa, may be pretty relaxed. You're seeing your friends, you're going to the market and all that kind of stuff. Have I been in Reynosa? I think I've been in Reynosa, actually. Yeah. Did I go? I think I was in Reynosa. And I've been in Tijuana, I've been in Reynosa, and I've been in one other border city, and I can't remember which one it is now. I didn't have any issues. I was perfectly happy. I was having a good time. It seemed peaceful and pleasant to me. And I never have been a place where I was scared, ever, in Mexico, ever. So, yeah, I mean, I would be pretty relaxed in Mexico, but there's still, if you're aware of certain things, and he should be aware because the company he works for would drill it into his head. Do not do this. This is dangerous, blah, blah, blah. That's been drilled into employees' heads all the time, even if it's not even true. But they were on Falcom Lake before. Why didn't they see the church the first time would be a question I'd have, if that was such a big deal. Because just being on that lake is not that big a deal. They could have gone elsewhere. Why go there? And why return there just to see that church? I don't know. It's hard. It really is hard to know because it's just such. I know she's lying. I just don't know exactly why. But those are my two theories on why she would lie. Let's see. I think Americans have a false sense of security when they are in other countries. I don't think so. I disagree with that. I think that we push on this side. Every time I go travel, God knows I hear, "Oh my God, Pat, don't go there. Don't go here. Don't go there." People are so afraid. Americans are terrified a lot of times. The only place they're not terrified is when they go to like Cancun. They think, oh, the tourists, especially the tourist venues, most of the time nothing bad happens in them unless you leave the tourist venue and go seek drugs. Then you get yourself in trouble. But if you go to Jamaica and you go to Montego Bay, or you go to Ocho Rios, or you go to Negril, and you stay where the hotels are, it's pretty safe. If you want to visit all over Jamaica, go to Kingston, go into the countryside, things get a little sketchier, been there, done that. But most Americans stay where the tourists are, and they rarely have issues unless the tourists are gunned down. Like in Egypt, the one time when all those tourists got killed in the temple. I mean, that really ruined the Egyptian tourist business for a really long time. When I went to Egypt, and I've been twice, and I stayed a total of 2 months, 1 month each time. I was aware of there were some issues where I want to be careful in that particular country. So, took care. But a lot of times people just exaggerate. Generally speaking, you're fine unless you go to places you shouldn't go to. And drugs are usually the number one. Number two is getting drunk off your butt in a place you don't know. Women traveling by themselves wearing minimal clothing in countries where men look at them and say, you a hoe, and take advantage of you in a way that is not, pretty lethal sometimes. So, common sense will keep you out of trouble. So I don't know that they were just so laid back. Oh, no worries. They knew. They lived in Mexico for 2 years. They know the good and the bad, and they know where it's perfectly fine, and they know where it probably shouldn't mess around with. Sarah says, we'll never know the truth. Only she and he knows. Well, he's dead, so we don't know much. Oh, that's an interesting point. She may have seen them turn him over in the water. Let me think about this for a second. I would have a problem thinking that if they were where she said they were, where she said she went back, that she would have gone back to watch them do this, when they'd have to pull up alongside him, and a bunch of guys would have to turn him over that way from the boat. I don't know. I have a bit of a trouble with that. If they were next to the shore and they shot him, and if they were on that boat next to the shore and they shot him and he fell into the water. Don't know. Maybe he just fell in and flipped over. It's possible, and she saw that and she was out of there. Not sure. Let's see. See what other comments you have that aren't similar to each other. Oh, do the cartel people just hang out at the church? Probably not. It's underwater. They're not going to church there. Could it be a place where a business is done? I don't know. It certainly is a good landmark to do business. That's all I can say. So let's see. Katie goes with, I think it was a drug deal type situation, like you said, and she panicked and let him take the bullet, literally. Yeah, they could have pulled a gun out and she just took off. I don't know that I'd stay around either. 2 headshots are very accurate shooting. I don't know that there were 2 headshots. One statement that was made, I don't know if there's a newspaper or her. So you got to be careful with the media when it doesn't come out of somebody's mouth that you can see. I heard 2 headshots at some point, and then I only heard 1 shot. But if you're talking about 2 headshots, one to him, one to her. Well, here's the thing. They don't have to shoot at her head either. They can shoot at the vehicle. There's no holes in the vehicle at all. They could have done that just to scare her off. They could have shot the vehicle, but they didn't. And again, if you're running from them, one of the things she said at some point, she was like going like this to put her body on the far side so they wouldn't hit her body. Like, really? I mean, because basically you'd be better off. You see right here, you'd be better off just lying flat, as flat as you can get, going like this. But instead she's going like this. And at some point she's probably actually turning her body toward them, making a better target. But the whole story just doesn't quite make sense. Could the cartel members have just had a bout of machismo and let the pretty little blonde girl go? No. I think they'd more likely surround the pretty little blonde girl, rape her, and then kill her. That would be more likely. Sally says, I don't think she wanted anybody to know about the drug deal, so she lied. Your version makes sense. And it's certainly one good version. I think the other version is possible too. So I say the biggest problem I have with the version, she just wanted to make herself a heroine, is that they waved. They saw that they were tourists and then still went after them. That bothers me. That makes no sense. Or they waved to say, come on over here. Those are the two things that make me think maybe that's not what happened and maybe it was a drug deal. And Dean is correct. I think she's guilty of something, maybe just lying. But the story changed too many times. The truth never changes. But why lie like that? Why? That's the question. Why to that extent? That's a good point, Katie. Could they have been waving to look like they were in distress? In theory, she doesn't say that. And if they look like they were in distress, she never said they looked like they were in distress. She never said they went over to help them. Say that's not even in her story. They just waved at her. They thought just a happy wave. That would be more of I can see where it would be a lure, but it didn't look like a distress lure. It more looked like a happy lure. Yeah, that's not quite working for me. She's a small woman. Does anyone really think she would take on 5 guys with handguns? Unless she was so, if she saw her husband get shot and she's just like, I want to die with him, I say Romeo and Juliet thing, that she went there to die because there's no way she could save him. No matter what, she couldn't save him. If the first bullet didn't do it him, the next, there's all those guys, they're going to shoot him again. I mean, she said automatic weapons too. So maybe they got a lot of rounds, so they can shoot the crap out of him. And when she gets him, they'll shoot the crap out of her. So it would be a suicide mission to go back and get him. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it at all. Oh, Lord. Kay Klein says, since they were getting ready to move to Colorado, the last chance for a drug deal sounds plausible. If it happened just any old time, the church story might work. That's a good point, too. You always look at the timing of something. The timing of something. And again, I don't even know if the last time they went there, they didn't go to the church, too, and bring something back. We don't even know that. I don't know why that was a point for them to go there when they could go to San Pedro Island, which is safe as crap. And it's more fun. You get to do waves on one side. You have a great time there. And you get to go to the beach, too. I mean, that location, Falcom Lake, is not exactly a gorgeous spot. It's pretty crappy looking on both sides. There's nothing about it that's attractive. I mean, if you're going to go study birds in the bushes there, okay. But it's not gorgeous. Fishing makes sense. But that is not where I would choose to go jet skiing, when you've got San Pedro Island. Yeah. And even the other lake in Mexico that I showed you, that was down further into Mexico, that was a much safer location because it truly was a lake. And people did go there for a number of reasons. And it was much prettier. So I just don't have problems with the choice of this is a place that they had to go to twice. And the timing, yes, right before they were going to leave, they had to go do this last trip. Again, they're closer to San Pedro Island. Why not your last trip to San Pedro Island? But he's a history buff. He just had to have a picture of the submerged church. I would like proof that he's a history buff. And we've never seen that. So if I were doing an investigation of this case, I want to say to her, I want to see all the pictures he took of the architecture and the history of Mexico. Because if you're a history buff, first of all, I only hear they were in Matamoros. I want to hear where else they went. I want to hear they went to Mexico City. Oh my God, the beauty of the architecture and the history of Mexico City is fabulous. Did he go to Mexico City? Did he take lots of pictures? If there's not a damn picture that anything except them partying and doing fun stuff, then he's no history buff. Are there books lining his house? The history of different things? Are they on his Kindle? I mean, I can say I've traveled the world, and you can find that I have. I mean, it's not a lie. I mean, if I said, I wanted to go on one last trip to someplace unique, so I picked, I don't know, let's say I picked, where's a questionable place to go to? That you'd, why is she going there? Yep. I can't think of one right now. But let's say someplace a little bit like questionable. Let's say, for example, El Salvador. At a certain point, people said, this is not the safest place to go to El Salvador. Would I go to El Salvador? I probably would. Because I'd figure if I stayed in the right places, I'd be fine. And I've been to Mexico, I've been to Nicaragua, I've been to Costa Rica, and I've been to Guatemala. I haven't been to Panama, I haven't been to El Salvador. So if I told you I wanted to go there because I was interested in the culture, you could believe me. But I want proof that this guy had some big historical bent, that he loved to take lots of photos of our architecture. And if that's not true, that's a damn lie. But we've heard not one thing, any kind of investigation as to that is why he went. And so that makes me really, really wonder. Yeah. So let's say, Lisa N says, hard to choose between your theories without more background. Oh my God, I didn't even get to your comment yet. And there you go. That's exactly right. And that's true. I can't choose either. I lean toward the drug deal more just because of the few things that really bug me. But the other one is possible too. But you're right. I can't really choose myself between the theories without more background. Was he a keen photographer? Is that just what I asked? Yes. Good for you. Were they wealthy beyond their salaries? There's some issues about that, and I'm not quite sure. Tricky as both plausible based on what we know. Yes. And this is why, again, this is an educational channel. It's not solving the crime because we're lacking information. I would, if I had the ability to go investigate this case, and if I had been a detective on this case and were able to sit her down and say, I want to know this, and that to know whether your story's true. But apparently nobody did it. That's all I can say. Grandma Tat said, oh, somebody's talking about, I'm not sure which was, I'm sorry. There's something that came earlier and I can't figure out where the comment came, matching whatever question was earlier. Yeah, it was not consistent, correct? And then Leslie has both a double here, narcissist and a drug deal. She's taking the opportunity to get attention and she thinks she can cover with her fantastical story. That may well be true. Both may be true. Good point. Both may be true. Let's see. Yeah, this is basically true. She admits it's a drug deal. She's a criminal. If I were her on this deal and everything went to hell, I wouldn't admit it either. Why would you? You would not make the mistake of admitting it, because it's not going to do you any good to say, yeah, we were going to get a drug deal. Then your family hates you. His family hates you. You might, I don't know whether they could actually do anything at that point in time. She could say he did the drug deal and I just went along for the ride, but it doesn't sound good, Grandma Tat says, I think making up a lie that fanciful reveals a narcissistic quality and also a lie. Yes. They're quite fanciful. Yes. And none of them, when I started looking at the physical possibilities of her, like being able to put his body onto the jet ski and stuff, I'm like, this can't even happen. It can't even happen. So when persons, and this is the thing, you can't just accept what she says. You have to actually look into realities. That's why I started looking at the channels that said, and I went to YouTube and I put in how to get on a jet ski because I have not ridden a jet ski. I don't know how you get on it. And I want to know if you fall off, how do you get back on it? Because I did do what is that? Paddleboard. I did a paddleboard thing. Holy crap. I fell off. I could not get back on that sucker. Luckily, I was near the dock because I could not get back on. I didn't have the strength to pull myself up onto the damn paddleboard. So once I went off. So at that point, I just paddled the board back with my feet back to the dock because I couldn't do it. Thankfully, I was in Mexico actually. No, I was in the Florida Keys, and all I did was stand up for a minute, and then I kneeled down. Because I couldn't, did I even, no, I don't even think I stood up. I don't think I could get up. I think I was kneeling the whole time and then I fell off. So I couldn't get back on. So you have to find out these things, how things actually work, something we're not familiar with. I did not know how these, and I forgot to mention this other thing. When the question would be let's see if I can find it. I had it here. Oh crap, where is it? Is it here? Where is it? something to do with the boat. I mean, the jet ski. Where did I put it? Maybe it's here. Oh, no, that's the mileage. I had something here about getting back. What happens with the jet ski? When you fall off the jet ski, does it keep going? And supposedly you have a tether. And what happens is when you fall, the tether stops the engine. Okay. So then you're next to your jet ski. So otherwise the jet ski would just leave you in the middle of freaking nowhere. And then the jet ski, that would be problematic because it's still running. It could just run away, and you'll never see it again. And then you have to swim to shore. It could be tricky. So there's a tether and supposedly it stops the thing. So then it would be stopped. She, on the other hand, if she were going to get off of her jet ski to go into the water to try to get him out or look at him, she would have to stop the jet ski. Then when she gets out of the water, she'd have to restart the jet ski. They say occasionally if it didn't actually stop, then the thing would just, and also after it stops, it can, well, if it's attached to, yeah, it'll be there. Now for her, she'd have to have the tether still attached. It might just drift away. So that's a whole nother issue, which I honestly don't have. That would have to be a whole study if one were working on the case. Let's see what else you got down here. I don't see any motive except she could have gotten insurance money. That's the only thing. That maybe, and some people say that's why she wanted his body back so badly, is that she killed him to get the insurance money. And once that he's been murdered, it's true, but there's no proof that he was murdered outside of her statement. You see how that works? So theoretically, and she could have, quote, murdered him, in which case she wouldn't get the insurance money. But still, even if she didn't want him dead, she loved him and everything. The frustrating thing is, I don't know how hard it is to get the insurance money when he can't recover his body. So her concern about getting his body back may not have been that she needed to have a proper funeral, but that she wanted the dang insurance to pay out. And I don't know how that all worked out with the insurance. So it would not be a motive necessarily for her to kill him, but it might be a motive why she wants the body back so badly, so she can collect. Lisa says, I'm like you, Pat. I go anywhere and have and never had issues. I was an informed traveler. Yeah, I mean, you can't not have. I mean, I've had more issues in the United States than I've had overseas. Probably because I'm more careless in the United States because I live here, and then you start getting overly comfortable. Well, that's probably true. Stephanie says, I've just heard so many stories of America doing stupid things in other countries. That's true. Because I don't understand they're not America. Absolutely. They do really dumb things, and it drives me crazy. I remember this one Egyptian movie, one American movie, and I forgot, it was one of my favorite actresses too. She was in it. She was this woman. She's wandering around with a sleeveless dress through this whole movie. And I'm thinking, put a sweater on, cover up, and she is harassed. And she's like, why are they doing this to me? I'm thinking, isn't it clear? I mean, what are you doing? There's, let's see. CJ says, years ago, me and my ex were in the Bahamas. We were naive travelers and went to a local laundromat and got weird looks. We didn't realize the hotel we were staying with had a laundry room. Well, you do definitely. I've been in many places I've gotten weird looks because I'm eating in restaurants Americans don't eat in. I'm taking local transport, which Americans don't take. I dress like the country, and that's unusual. And so I get looks for that, but usually appreciative ones. Mostly I'm appreciated for doing what everybody else in the country does that Americans never do. But yeah, you might have been like, they're like, we don't usually see Americans in here doing laundry. What's their problem? That's funny, but true. Sheriff Ziggy said it was a place they stashed drugs, but he was not reliable to me. His whole stuff just, I can't tell whether he's just kind of just a guy who just not that great at his job, or whether he's on the tech, or whether he's, or he's got some information. He just likes to talk and sound like he's smart, or whether he really knows something. I can't figure out which one it is with him, but I'm not real confident in the things he says. Let's put it that way. If they killed him and let her go, it was a drug deal gone bad. They got to keep the money and the drugs. That would be true. That's why, you're stupid if you go do a drug deal like that. It is really, really idiotic. But people get killed over drug deals all the time. The same reason. It's stupid. You go to an isolated place. You got the money. They got the drugs. If they got the gun, they got the money and the drugs, and you get shot. It's kind of that simple. But people, again, their eyes light up at the thought of the cash, and they do stupid things. So, yeah, this is true. I'm amazed there are no bullet holes in her ski jet. Yeah, I mean, at all. All those people shooting at her and not one. Now, admittedly, it's hard on a lake to hit anything with accuracy. But if they have automatic weapons, at least they can do this. So you would think if she's in front of them, they can go from side to side, and they got more than 3 boats all going from side to side. That's a lot of bullets. Yeah, that's problematic. Let's see. Let's see what else you got to say here. Oh, that's interesting. Fairy Princess says a local said it was not a jet ski type lake, and no one does that on that lake. Very, very interesting. And I think I did read that someplace. I forgot who said it was. Was it in the maybe it was in the show? But you're right. They thought that was unusual, and that's the point. If something is unusual, why do you drive 2 hours to do this? Except the obsession with the church taking the picture. It is a good way to get to the church and take the picture. So if you're really obsessed about the dang picture, I guess you might go there. I mean, if you like unique things, you might be into that. That's why I want to know, is this guy like a really, truly massive history buff and picture taker? I don't know. I'd like to know. That's interesting. Florence is saying Colorado's a fairly liberal state and probably has a good market for drugs. Certain towns anyway. Maybe so. Maybe so. And that would be, you're going there and you can bring something up there. Hard to say. Let's see. Oh, that's a good one. And interesting. Did anyone check his Facebook for photos he took? 2010. I'm trying to think back how much we were using Facebook. 13 years ago? Yeah, we were. Definitely. Okay. So I never heard about any Facebook photos. I never heard about anybody checking his Facebook. I don't think I checked his Facebook. I don't know if he had Facebook. I can't remember that. I mean, I know I commented on the case that long ago, but I don't know, how much effort I put into investigating it at that point. I mean, it was one of these things you heard about it, and I don't know if I think I did maybe talk about it on TV. Can't remember. But I may have then just written up this article, because I saw her say stuff and I didn't think it made sense. So I put up mine and Peter put up his, and, Lillian did hers. We all commented and moved on. So I don't know that I spent a great deal of time fishing that, looking to see those things. Now I wish I had. Yeah, I wish I had. Yeah, that would be good. I just would love to know about that. Absolutely. Florence says, seems like some more victimology should have been done on these two. Surely their friends must have had some idea if they were into drugs. Well, this is an interesting point too. One thing Peter Hyatt says is she made sure to say they were on the Mexican side. They were on the Mexican side. They were on the Mexican side when he was shot. Mexican side. Because that took it out of the hands of the American authorities, basically. Puts it into, being something Mexico has to run the investigation. They asked her to come to Mexico, and she refused to do it. She said she felt unsafe. She would not go and file a report down there or be interviewed down there. She sent a statement from the embassy or the consulate. So I don't know whether anybody had the jurisdiction necessarily to go into this level of investigation in the United States. And I don't know that Mexico really spent time thinking about it. So, yeah, I don't think it was ever done. Yeah. I wish it had been. But, that the cartels killed them, that was not the issue. So it comes down to, is you're trying to figure out who murdered him. That's not a mystery. Definitely, I would say it's the Zeta cartel, or it was somebody on the fringes of the Zeta cartel, or it was some people who weren't the Zeta cartel who the Zeta cartel would kill if they, did little private drug deals like that. So they were murdered by somebody in Mexico who was probably dealing drugs, whether to them or to other people. They were either drug smugglers who shot them because they were discovered in the area, or they were a drug deal gone bad. But either way, we're still talking about cartel and drug smuggling. So the issue isn't really for the authorities whether David and Tiffany were doing a drug deal or not. As far as they're concerned, they were shot. And the Americans didn't really go there that it would be a drug deal. Just like in Matamoros, we don't even hear any details of the Matamoros killings. Like when the woman was supposed to get a tummy tuck there, and her friends all drove from South Carolina, 4 people. She rented a van, or they rented a SUV, and drove all the way from South Carolina for 20 hours just to take her there. They didn't seem to have to work for the next week. And Matamoros is a shabby place for vacation. So why would they be going to Matamoros for a week vacation? Because a tummy tuck, you have to be there for 7 to 10 days after the tummy tuck. So it wasn't the liposuction. If the woman had been getting a liposuction at Matamoros, that's a one-day deal. And then I could see that they could stay in a Texas hotel, bring her over to the clinic. She gets the liposuction done. They come pick her back up, take her back to the hotel. That's it. One day. It's still a hell of a long way to go. I don't know why she just fly down, by herself. I mean, or take one girlfriend, but and spend all this money renting a vehicle and all that crap. I don't buy the story. I think something's wrong with it. And she said tummy tuck, but we've never heard what clinic she was going to. We have no proof that she was getting a tummy tuck. We have no proof of anything. We're believing the story. And is that because they're innocent and it's just nobody's bothering with it? Or is it because the Americans don't want to say anything and the Mexicans are like, yeah, we're not going to say anything either? And the same is true for this case. If the Americans even had an inkling it was a drug deal gone bad, do they want to even say that? No, they have no reason to put that out there. They'd rather say innocent Americans got killed in Mexico by the bad drug smugglers. Innocent Americans. And the Mexicans, they can't even get her down there to talk to her. So they're like, okay, we'll just, we know it's one of they know they got killed by the smugglers, so we'll just go after them. So that's why truth doesn't always come out, shall we say. So, if I were a victim of a crime, I'd be very upset if Sheriff Ziggy was on the case. Yeah, I remember back in the beginning when he talked, it didn't go well with me. Didn't go. He reminds me of the Delphi case, and what's his name? That kept giving these press conferences and talking to the press, and I kept going, oh my God, stop talking. Stop talking. Let's see. Any other comments before I close this down for today? And that's true. If you love photography, I do have 100K plus photos and albums. Yeah, definitely. That should be there in spades. Absolutely. That's probably true, Fairy Princess. There seemed to be more of a physical search for them rather than an investigation of the whole thing. The Mexican side was looking into who killed them. They were looking into the cartel, and that's why that one guy got his head cut off and put in a suitcase. And that and they eventually convicted nobody, probably because the police either get killed when they investigate, or they just take the bribe, or they just look the other way because they don't want to die. So the cartels are very, very powerful. So it's hard to go up against them, even for the Mexican police. It's a real problem. Let's see. Kelly says, I'm going heavy into thinking the lady liked attention, essentially knowing no investigation was taking place. Yeah. It's her story. And actually, she says this quite often. Not what happened, but she says, I told them my story. And I'm always a little leery when I hear the word story, because it's not a story. It's the truth about what happened. When you say stories are usually made up. So she says that quite often, and it's real questionable. So there I'll leave it. But a fascinating case that I say there's nothing ever going to happen from here on out. Tiffany is a remarriage, has a child. She's going to live her life. Nobody's ever going to be convicted. We all know he was murdered. But the only thing that stands out is that what really happened on that lake, on Falcom Lake, what really happened. And I don't think we're ever going to have an answer to that. So, some things in life, you never get answers to. And when you're an investigator or sometimes a profiler in a case, there's nothing more frustrating than being able to get this far, but you can't get this far. You know enough to know that there's something fishy, but you can't ever get enough information to be able to prove one thing or the other. You can only come up with good theories. And these are my two theories. But I can say 100% that I don't believe the actual story Tiffany Hartley gave. I don't believe she circled back to save her husband. That's nonsense. So what happened? Well, I'll have to, we'll have to wonder forever. So, well, thank you, Aunt Jeannie. I hope so. That's. Oh, it's your first live chat, Kate Klein? First live chat. Thank you, Pat. Could you put Ray? Good old Ray. Oh, yes. Ray is on my list, actually. Definitely on my list. I have such a long list now. That's why people say, why aren't you getting to the one I want? Because believe me, every one of these cases I do is because so many people wanted the case to be done. So then you get one case done, and then by the time you get more, all these other ones coming in. Somebody asked me today, could you get to? They mentioned 3 things, and I said, when I started this channel, I was worried, how long can I keep the channel going? Before I run out of stuff to talk about. And now I just think, well, I live long enough to get everything done that I'd like to talk about. So yeah, I'm amazed how many cases there are, and how many topics are to talk about. It's phenomenal. But I guess the problem is that the world we live in, there's always going to be murders. There's always going to be suspicious deaths. There's always going to be psychopathy. There's always going to be issues about safety and all this kind of stuff. So many things that come under the umbrella of what I do. Yeah, I won't run out of topics, but I'm going to keep trying to get to it all. I really am. Thank you, Michaela. Oh my goodness. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here, and I think you all came up with really good stuff. So when I see people profiling well, that makes me really happy. That means what I'm imparting on my shows is helping with the thinking process, essentially. And then people because I've always believed profiling is not some innate thing. It's not something, like a psychic thing. Oh, I can just tell what happened. No, it is a skill that can be taught. And the sad thing is we have so few profilers in this country because some people do not want people to think you can teach profiling. They want it to be some miraculous, magical thing, melding with the mind of killers and garbage like that. If you can learn to be a doctor, if you can learn to be a lawyer, you can learn to be a profiler. It's training, training, training. And that's what's important if you want to learn a skill that helps you analyze. So anyway, thank you. That's nice. Deaf learn here in your classroom. I'm glad. That's why I do this show. And that's very nice. Pat, you make us happy. That's very sweet. Yeah, and that's why I'm here. I like the teaching aspect. So there's some people who say, "Oh my God, your videos are so long." I'm like, well, that's because you're not interested in what I'm teaching. So there you go. Anyway, thank you for being here. And now that everything has been fixed, this little nightmare that I had for the show with Joe, I'll reschedule that with Joe Stunner for the boxing show, and hopefully it won't happen again. It was just a very freaky thing where my camera, my external camera, the software program in it went haywire, and what it did was it attacked the audio stuff so that it blocked all the other inputs to the computer, so that the computer couldn't recognize the microphones from outside except for the camera. And I never would have thought the camera would be the issue. And so my son really worked hard on this, and he finally said he just decided he would uninstall the camera and reinstall it, see what happens. And he did, and everything came back. I was like, holy crap, it was the camera, the external camera program. It was like unbelievable. So yeah, so when he did it, all the microphones showed back up and everything worked fine. So I would never have thought of uninstalling a camera. So there you go. It's fascinating. So yeah, so it's all here, and you know, hopefully it won't happen again for a while. But you know, there's always computers and trying to do things live and all that. There's always going to be times when just that things are beyond your control that go wrong. And thank God I didn't have to take it in to a computer guy to fix it, because I don't like leaving my computer with anybody, considering what I have on my computer, which is a lot of profiling stuff and photos and all of this. And if they have to access my computer, I'm uncomfortable with it. So real glad that my son could do it. So anyway, thank you all for being here. And you certainly will see me again soon for the hangout this week. And then for the Joe show, and then the show next week. So glad you were here. Bye.